Coming up on 5 Minute News. Protester killed in Portland as Mayor and Trump trade blame. US intelligence chief defends briefings ban. And US coronavirus cases top 6 million as schools face outbreaks. It's Monday, August 31. I'm Anthony Davis. With crises brewing beyond the White House gates, a man who was fatally shot after supporters of Donald Trump clashed with left-wing protesters on the streets of Portland, Oregon, was a supporter of the right-wing group Patriot Prayer, its founder said on Sunday. Donald Trump and Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler have blamed each other for the violence. Trump called Wheeler a fool on Twitter and said to bring in the National Guard, while Wheeler blamed Trump for creating such a toxic environment. Trump had earlier issued a flurry of tweets and retweets, including several blaming Wheeler for the death, and one in which the president appeared to be encouraging his supporters to move into Portland. The shooting happened about 15 minutes after a caravan of about 600 vehicles that were part of a pro-Trump rally left downtown. It wasn't clear if the shooting was related to the clashes between Trump supporters and counter-protesters in Portland, which has become a flashpoint in the national Black Lives Matter protests since George Floyd was killed in May, and an increasing centerpiece in Trump's law and order re-election campaign theme. Portland has been the site of nightly protests for more than 3 months since the police killing of Floyd in Minneapolis. The right-wing group Patriot Prayer has a history in Portland and repeatedly rallied supporters for pro-Trump rallies beginning in 2017. The group is based in Washington state. Supporters periodically cross into Oregon for rallies and marches. Trump and other speakers at last week's Republican convention evoked a violent dystopian future if Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden wins in November, and pointed to Portland as a cautionary tale in what would be in store for Americans, ignoring the obvious dystopian present that they themselves have created. Protesters are rightfully angry as the president ignores their cries for help and refuses to even acknowledge the problem, let alone the scale. Donald Trump's intelligence chief on Sunday defended his decision to cease in-person congressional briefings on election security, while Democrats said the move would suppress critical information about foreign election meddling and warned they may subpoena testimony. John Ratcliffe, the president's new director of national intelligence and a close Trump ally, accused U.S. lawmakers of leaking classified information from a July 31st briefing to promote what he called false narratives that somehow Russia is a greater national security threat than China. Ratcliffe is a former lawmaker who defended Trump during the congressional probes into Russian efforts to influence the 2016 election. Democratic lawmakers accused Ratcliffe of trying to block them from questioning intelligence officials in a bid to conceal information on how Russia has been interfering in the 2020 presidential election to help Trump, as it did in 2016. The intelligence community has warned that Russia is trying to denigrate Trump's 2020 Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, and that Iran and China are also trying to sow disinformation. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, a former presidential candidate, said Ratcliffe's decision was an outrage at a time when multiple foreign governments were trying to break into the November 3rd election, and that it was crazy that the House may be forced to subpoena him. Trump has recently admitted that China doesn't want him to win the election. He has refused to criticize Russia for multiple crimes that they have been accused of against the United States. Cases of the novel coronavirus in America surpassed 6 million yesterday, as many states in the Midwest reported increasing infections. Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota have recently reported record one-day increases in new numbers, while Montana and Idaho are seeing record numbers of currently hospitalized COVID-19 patients. Nationally, metrics on new cases, deaths, hospitalizations, and the positivity rates of tests are all declining, but there are emerging hotspots in the Midwest. More than 8 months into the pandemic, the United States continues to struggle with testing. The number of people tested has fallen in recent weeks as the president puts into action his logic-defying theory that the more people tested, the more cases are discovered. Many health officials in at least 33 states have rejected the new COVID-19 testing guidance issued by the Trump administration last week that said those exposed to the virus and without symptoms may not need testing. Public health officials believe the United States needs to test more frequently to find asymptomatic COVID-19 carriers to slow the spread of the disease. While the United States has the most recorded infections in the world, it ranks 10th based on cases per capita, with Brazil, Peru, and Chile having higher rates of infection. The United States also has the most deaths in the world at nearly 183,000 and ranks 11th in the world for deaths per capita out of 213 countries. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Please subscribe, rate, and review us at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an independent production covering politics, inequality, health, and climate, delivering unbiased, verified, and truthful world news daily.